Sami Hamdi. Sami is editor-in-chief of the International Interest. Sami, if I were to say to you, is this surprising? I would expect you to say that you'd be surprised if it didn't happen.
Of course, it's not surprising at all. This is a practice not just in the last 5 years. This is a practice over the course of 60, 70, 80 years, not necessarily with the same technology, gathering information on dissidents in order to imprison them or kill them or maim them or threaten them, or to find out where they are located. And in fact, maybe viewers aren't aware, there is a whole industry that is legal in some sense with regards to the gathering of information, whether it's email addresses, whether it's home addresses and the like. And I don't think Saudi is alone in doing so. You mentioned that Israeli spyware was hired by the Saudis in order to hack some of these accounts, implying that there is gear out there that can be hired, that can be bought in order to facilitate all of this. And the problem is, the suppliers of such material, the suppliers of such information, don't necessarily ask what the information is going to be used for. Find me the address, find me where this person is located, and it happens not just in Saudi Arabia, it could be China, even the US are involved in it, France, the UK, and the like. So I'm not particularly surprised with these revelations.
What level of criticism does the Saudi government deem to be acceptable? If someone tweets, I think it's time for women to be allowed to drive, or I think it's time for women to be allowed to attend football matches, is that acceptable? Is it really just bring down the government that is not acceptable to Riyadh? Where does it draw the line?
Riyadh doesn't actually have a high threshold for criticism, so anything can count. So once upon a time, Abdulaziz al-Tarifi, who's still in prison, he's been in prison for over 4 years now, tweeted and said, I don't think selling Aramco to the US is a good idea, selling shares in Aramco. He was imprisoned. Sulaiman al-Dawish said that, oh, King Salman, when you put Mohammed bin Salman as crown prince, give him responsibility slowly. Don't give him everything in one go, otherwise he might bring disaster. He was imprisoned. Salman al-Auda wrote on Twitter and said, it's a shame that the Qataris and the Saudis are fighting one another. May Allah bring these two countries back together in the spirit of brotherhood. He was put in prison and now he's facing a death penalty, a potential death penalty. So the threshold is not actually high. And the reason is this. We have to understand how Mohammed bin Salman thinks. He knows that he upset the royal family in order to become crown prince. He's upset the established Saudi hierarchy in society in order to push through his reforms. He has to cement his power, and the only way he can do that is by force. Therefore, if he allows an environment in which everybody can criticize him, he will find he has no actual allies. He doesn't have any real allies who will fight for him tooth and nail. And this is why he has to make sure that publicly everybody is praising him. Publicly, people are welcoming his reforms. Publicly, they are happy with the way that he is conducting himself. And this is why even the slightest criticism cannot be acceptable, because it will snowball. And Mohammed bin Salman, and this is going to sound a bit, I'm not defending him or anything, but Mohammed bin Salman has good reason to fear the snowball effect. Remember that the revolution in Tunisia took place when a small vegetable vendor burnt himself in front of a police as a statement against the regime, and suddenly there was this Facebook furor over it, and it led to the downfall of the regime. Egypt, social media played a huge role in bringing down Mubarak. The same in Libya, the same in Syria. They're on edge, these monarchies in the Gulf. They're aware that any space for freedom of expression, freedom of thought, could well lead to an Arab Spring-style protest, and it doesn't need much to start it. In Lebanon, announcement of tax on WhatsApp led to these mass protests that are taking place that is about to bring down the government in Beirut. So Mohammed bin Salman, it's not necessary that he has this schizophrenia or paranoia. He knows that freedom means he is no longer crown prince. Freedom means he is no longer running Saudi Arabia. Therefore, he has to do everything possible to make sure that there is restricted freedoms in Saudi Arabia. And this is why we see all of these efforts being exerted in this manner.
Okay, is Mohammed bin Salman's main tactic in regard to government critics just to lock them up? Because if information wars are happening on social media, does he have a group of people, does he have sort of troll farms who are going to put the Saudi government's perspective out there against people who criticize the government? Or is he not that well versed in how to conduct those kind of campaigns? Let's say Vladimir Putin's Russia is the master of those. Is MBS still struggling to catch up with that sort of tactic, that he'll just put people in prison rather than go for another sort of tactic?
the people that he's putting up prison are people who can actually mobilize. So talking on Twitter and Facebook is not enough. But if Salman al-Ouda says something and he has multiple million followers, it's different than if somebody else said it. So anybody who can actually mobilize people has to go to prison. At the same time, he has a Twitter army. He has an electronic army. Every time, I mean, you try it yourself. I mean, I've done it many times. Put something that criticizes Saudi Arabia, and you yourself, you will see about 5, 6, 7, maybe 20 people replying to you from random accounts telling you that you're a traitor and you hate Saudi Arabia. So there is an army that is there on alert electronically. Mohammed bin Salman is now moving into the cultural war. So I know, given that it's TRT, it's quite relevant here. The Turks have that famous show, Ertugrul, that is being broadcast and has caused waves in the Arab world. Now Saudi have funded an alternative series whereby it is claiming that the Ottomans were tyrants and that they abused the Arabs, and it is about to be released, and it was conducted by a British director. So it's trying to push back against this narrative that Turkey is good and Saudi Arabia is bad. So they are developing their tactics. But I think what is very interesting is because there is a huge spotlight on Saudi Arabia, I think Mohammed bin Salman believes that given that everybody's saying Saudi funded extremism and the like, there is a heavy spotlight on Saudi Arabia. And he feels that spotlight is harsh. He says, look, Sisi is imprisoning people. Tunisia is imprisoning people. America has Guantanamo Bay. The French have rendition programs. The UK. Bin Salman genuinely believes that he's being hard done. It's like, I'm not the first person to kill people. Guantanamo, they're torturing people every day. Go focus on them. Why are you coming to me? And it is this, I don't want to say deluded approach, but very strange approach to politics that gives bin Salman this victim mentality and makes him believe that everything he's doing is actually the correct thing, and people like me and you simply just don't understand him.
Sami, I think you said, I know what it's like. About 4 years ago, before being granted a visa to go to Saudi Arabia, I was told I needed to delete a tweet. And it said, I just found out that Saudi Arabia imports sand and camels from Australia. They told me to delete that tweet, otherwise they wouldn't give me a visa. Sami, thank you so much. Always great to talk to you. Sami Hamdi.